Namasarvebhyaha. Welcome back to the course Fundamentals of Asiddhatva in Paninian Grammar, presented by Vyoma Samskrita Pathashala. This is the 15th session of the course. Today we will see the concept of Bahiranga Asiddhatvam. येनाक्षर समाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्. We are reaching the end of this course in which we are trying to understand the basic concepts of the different kinds of asiddhatva that operate in Vyakarana. So we saw about Purvatra Siddham, we saw about Shatvatukora Siddha, and we also learnt about the Abhiya Asiddhatva in the last session. The sutra Asiddhavadatrabhat tells that within the range of that adhikara, Samanashraye Abhiya Karye Kartavye Abhiyam Karyam Asiddham Bhavati. So if there are two sutras within the adhikara which have a Samana Ashraya, one overlapping Ashraya factor, so the one which operates first will be Asiddha to the other one. So that is what it means. And we saw two different examples for Abhiya Asiddhatva. Now we will take a look, a very superficial look into the last kind of Asiddhatva, which is called the Bahiranga Asiddhatva. So this is actually not given by the sutra itself directly, but there is a paribhasha called Asiddham Bahirangam Antarange. So it's a paribhasha, one of the most important paribhashas in the Paribhashendu Shekhara, and a very detailed paribhasha where Nagesha Bhatta takes several definitions of Antaranga Bahiranga and several kinds of Bahiranga Siddhatva, and he establishes the complete range of the paribhasha, also with the pramana from Sutra Vartika Bhashya, etc. So we will only look very superficially into this paribhasha on what it means in general. So the artha of the paribhasha is given as Antarange Karye Kartavye Bahirangam Asiddham. So between two karyas, one of them is Antaranga and the other is Bahiranga. So Bahiranga will be Asiddha. When you want to do the Antaranga Karya, Bahiranga Karya will be Asiddha, is what it means. So what is Antaranga and Bahiranga is the question. It is a relative definition. So among a pair of sutras, we can compare and say what is Antaranga and what is Bahiranga. So there are different ways again in which Antaranga and Bahiranga are defined. One of the most simple definitions is Bahirbhuta Nimittakatvam Bahirangatvam. So what is a Bahiranga Karya or a Bahiranga Sutra? The Nimittas are Bahirbhuta. So an operation which depends on internal or earlier conditions is called Antaranga, relative to another operation which depends on conditions which are external or arise later in sequence. So very briefly, those karyas which have an external nimitta are Bahiranga, those which have an internal nimitta are Antaranga. So this internal and external, it depends on the context. It can also be a nimitta which rises earlier in the sequence and a nimitta which rises later in the sequence. So internal or earlier conditions means the operation is Antaranga. External or later conditions means it is a Bahiranga Sutra. There is a paribhasha, para nitya antaranga apavadanam uttarottaram baliyaha. So this is in the Siddhanta Kaumudi as a part of the paribhasha prakaranam. So it says, it gives the relative strength of different kinds of sutras. So Parasutra is stronger by Vipratishedhe Parankaryam. But even more than the Parasutra, a Nitya Sutra is stronger. So Krita Krita Prasangi Shastram Nityam is how Nitya is defined. So a Nitya is stronger than Para. And Antaranga is stronger than both Para and Nitya. And an Apavada Sutra is the strongest. Okay, so this is the relative precedence. So in that we have the same Antaranga Sutra. So Antaranga is stronger means Bahiranga is Asiddha, and therefore Antaranga Sutra will take precedence. That is what it means by Baliyaha. So we will see an example. So Pachidhatu and Lot Lakara, Uttama Purusha Bahuvachana. So we have the mas pratyaya. So mip, vas and mas. So the sakara is deleted by nityangitaha. There is an atidesha loto langvat, and by nityangitaha the sakara is deleted. So we have pachama. So pachama is the uttama purusha bahuvachana form. Pachani, pachava, pachama. Now to this pachama, there is another word, idam. So idam pachama. So pachama plus idam. Now I can do adgunaha. So we get pachamedam by adgunaha. In this context, there is a question. Eta ai is a sutra. Now eta ai is a sutra which tells in lot lakara, if there is ekara, so there is a lot lakara, the ekara of lot lakara is converted to aikara. For example, in say Vandadhatu, we have Vandamahe. The ekara gets converted to aikara, so we get Vandamahai. Vandai, Vandavahai, Vandamahai. So mostly in Atmanepadas, we have an ekara of lot lakara, which is converted to aikara. So edhai, edhavahai, edhamahai, etc. we get. Now here the question is, once we do adgunaha, pachamedam, there is a sutra Antadivaccha, which we saw very briefly in the in a few classes ago when we were discussing Ekah Purva Parayoho. So if we take the Antavad Bhava, that is Ekadeshaha Ekaraha, Purvasya Antavad Bhavati. So it behaves like the ending of the Purva, which means Pachame is lot lakara. Initially we had Pachama and Idam. Once we combine this with Adgunaha, the Ekadesha, the Ekara we take to the Purva. So which means Pachame will be the lot lakara part and Dam will be the second part. Now in Pachame, we have an Ekara of lot lakara. So can I convert this Ekara to Aikara by Eta Ai is the question. So Eta Ai ityanena Ekarasya Aikaraha bhavati va Antavad bhavashrayanena Pachame ityasya lottvat iti prashnaha. So in this context we say Eta Ai is Antaranga, whereas Adgunaha is Bahiranga. Why? Eta Ai, it needs only the ekara of lot lakara. So the nimitta for condition is within the word pachama, within the lot lakara word. It does not need any external nimitta. So Eta Ai operates just with the lot lakara. You need to have the ekara. Whereas guna, this adgunaha to operate, it needs an external word. So the akara of pachama is reacting with an external letter ikara, and then you are getting the ekara. So guna is bahiranga. That is, the nimitta for guna is external. whereas the nimitta for eta I is internal, so within the word. So eta I is an antaranga karya and guna is a bahiranga karya. So antarange karye kartavye bahirangam asiddham. So guna is asiddha to eta I. So it sees only pachama. Where there is akara, there is no ekara in lot lakara, and therefore eta I will not operate. So this is an example of antarange karye kartavye bahirangam karyam asiddham bhavati. Eta I being an antaranga karya does not recognize the bahiranga karya, which is the guna. Okay, so this is a, as I said, there is lots more to Asiddham Bahirangam Antarange. So it is a paribhasha with several layers and several subtleties in its operation. But in brief, what we mean is this. So if there are operations depending on external conditions, so it is Bahiranga and therefore it becomes Asiddha to an Antaranga Karya. So with this, we have seen an overview of all the different kinds of asiddhatva in Vyakarana. In the next class, which is the last class of the course, we will do a very quick summary of whatever we have seen so far. येनाक्षरसमाम्नाय अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्.